Hello everybody and welcome to an Elder Scrolls Online video with me, Sherman. Today we're going to be talking about builds and builds and builds. Because builds are cool, they're fun, they're exciting, they can be really cool. If they're put in the right hands, I guess you could say, or if they're with the right person using them. Or you can just come up with some really unique build that's just all your own and you don't have to share with anybody. But that's a choice. Just like all builds are a choice, it's one of the cool things about the game is that there is so many possible ways to make a build. I mean, if you just think about race and class and weapon type and armor type and all the different guild skills and all the different skills in the game, just the combinations of those is over 200,000 different possible builds. Now, I know not everyone's going to use those kind of builds because, there is a difference of people that play the game. There's people that like the game for RP reasons, and making an RP build is really fun and exciting because it does add new elements to the game that allow you to kind of come up with a new thing. Now, if you're a person who RPs like role plays in the game, that's cool. I think it is a fantastic thing. I like to do what's called adventure RP, where basically it's kind of like playing a D&D session within the thing, and you basically set up a story for people to play through. Now, this isn't something I've done in ESO, but I have done it in other MMOs, and it's really fun and exciting to do. So there is different kinds of builds for different situations as well. There's builds you can make for just dungeon running, and there's a build you can make for just PvP. There's builds you can make for just whatever you want. And that's what a build is, basically. It's a concept of or an idea that allows you to make your character do what you want them to do for whatever situation. You can make a hybrid build. You can make a tank build. You can make a DPS, hybrid. You can make a pure stamina DPS. You can make a pure magicka DPS. You can make a magicka healer that does stamina damage. There's so many different possibilities that it's almost unimaginable, like how many different builds, because there is over 1 million different build combinations in this game. I don't know the exact number. Somebody did the math and they said per class there's over 1 million different build types if you went through and calculated or combined every armor type with different things, like each armor set and all that kind of stuff. It was crazy how the guy did it, and it was like, are you serious? There's that many different possible builds. But yet a lot of times what happens is there's like a flavor of the month, a build of the week, that kind of thing that comes along, and a lot of people want to use it because that build is considered more superior. Doesn't mean that it's the best build, but it is a more superior build to the one that came out a week ago, and everyone will switch over to that build because they have the resources to. A lot of people don't have those resources. A lot of people don't have the time to come up with multiple builds. They only have enough time to make one build, and they have to play with that one build, so they try to make it work as best they can to do that. Wow, I said a lot of stuff in a little bit of time. It almost made me lightheaded. But the truth is, you can make a build that pretty much will do anything you want, depending on how you do it. And it's up to the player to make that build and make a build that works for them. Now, a lot of people just kind of go with their own flow, and they come up with something unique to their own kind, or their own type, or their own playstyle, or their own whatever they're doing, and it works for them because they made it work for them. And that's what a build can do, is it can work for you. Now, there's a lot of times that you're going to make a build and it's going to be bugged as snot because it doesn't work 100% effectively. So you have to tinker with it and tweak it and build on it and change things, and you're constantly altering things till you get it to that 100% effectiveness. Now, you might go through 3 different gear sets, or you might change out like your skill sets like 100 times, trying to find the right combination of skills to make it work right. But that's fun to some people. Some people like doing that. I enjoy doing that. I like coming up with taking complicated things and making them simpler. And making them work in such a fashion that they can do a lot of things, but still be capable of doing whatever is necessary of their role. Now, you can make a role build where you're playing a tank, a healer, or a damage dealer, or you can make what's called a hybrid build. Now, a hybrid build is somebody that does multiple jobs. They're basically a jack of all trades but a master of none, or they're a jack of 2 trades and a master of none kind of thing. They can't be perfect at everything, and that's what a hybrid is. So a hybrid is somebody that's good at a lot of things but not perfect, like not built to do one specific thing. Like when you make a stamina DPS, your character is a stamina based DPS player, and that's their role. A hybrid would be somebody that's a stamina and magicka DPS with that combination, and because of that, they won't be as effective in a lot of ways. But it doesn't mean that they're not good at what they do. They're just not great at what they do. They're not doing the greatest damage potential they can possibly do. But it doesn't mean that they can't be played. You can make a character and play them through all content that way. It's a choice. And just like with any build, it's a choice on what you choose to play or don't play. Now, I know a lot of people are probably wondering, well, why even, discuss this stuff when a lot of people play the meta? Well, not everyone plays the meta. And in fact, this video isn't dedicated just to the meta players. It's dedicated to all players in the game. It's one that teaches, or will hopefully teach them how to come up with their own unique ideas. So where does a build start? A build starts once you pick your race and class. Once you pick your race and class, your build has already started because you've made your decision. I want to play this race with this class combination, and I'm going to play something that's going to work for me. Now, like I said, not all builds are going to work 100% for you right at the start. It's something you have to build into. So where do you do this? Where do you come up with these build ideas? Well, like I said, your class and your race combinations can play a lot on the effect of how well your build can be. Now, I'm playing a Wood Elf Templar. Everyone knows this because they've either seen my Templar tank DPS video or they haven't. But the point is that you can take a Wood Elf and pretty much make them into anything you want, no matter what class you choose. You can make them a tank, a healer, a DPS person. It just means that their racial choice that you pick might not be as effective as being a healer necessarily. Being a Wood Elf, would I be an effective healer? But it doesn't mean that I can't do it. It just means I'm not going to be 100% effective at it. It just means I'm going to be good at it. I'm not going to be great, but I'm going to be good. Now, does that make me a jack of all trades? No, it just means that I'm going to be good at something, and that's it. I'm not going to be the best I can be at it because I don't have the capabilities to get the benefits like an Argonian can, and not even an Argonian is the best healer. They just get extra healing effectiveness. They get a lot more health and stuff, and they do get a benefit to leveling the resto staff. So understanding what your race can do for you can help you build on the class or build type you want to do, but it's not necessarily something you have to do. Your class, though, is a big thing because your class has certain benefits. Being a Templar, I know that a Templar is an effective healer. They're effective at DPS, but they're also effective tanks because they have that capability of doing all three roles. All classes do. And that's the other benefit about Elder Scrolls Online that a lot of MMOs don't offer, is the fact that your class can play all three roles. The only other game that offers that option is Guild Wars 2. And that's because Guild Wars 2 is built in such a way that it allows people to take any character they want in any class combination and make anything they want out of it. But they have just different titles. They have damage, control, and support, which basically comes down to tank, healer, DPS. Except not in that lineup. It would be control, support, or control, damage, and support. And that would be tank, DPS, and healer. So you have that setup. They have the same setup. And how you build your character depends on what gear you choose, what class you choose, what weapon type you choose, and what armor type you choose. Now, just because you choose to wear heavy armor doesn't mean you're going to be a tank. You can make a DPS person and still be in heavy armor. You can be a DPS person in medium armor. You can be a stamina DPS person in light armor. It's all dependent on what the player's trying to get out of their gear, their armor, that will determine how effective it can be. Now, just because you're wearing heavy armor doesn't mean you can't DPS. Like I said, you can still DPS and be good at DPS. You're just not going to be great at as stamina DPS as you would in medium armor, and building a character that's more dedicated to stamina-based DPS. It doesn't mean that your character can't do it. They can, and they can get away with a lot in heavy armor. They get greater resistances, increasing their survivability. They get greater health pool, so they get that extra resistance, like resilience to their character, because the greater the health pool, the more survivability you get. And heavy armor offers you more survivability. Medium armor gives you a little bit less survivability with a little bit more, on the stamina side of DPS. The same thing goes with light armor. Light armor gives you a great amount of magicka DPS or magicka capabilities. And medium armor gives you greater stamina capabilities. And heavy armor gives you greater survivability. So those are the things you need to look at when you come up with a build. What kind of armor type do I want to use? And then the next choice would be your weapon type. Choosing a weapon can be kind of hard because all the weapon types sound really good. Two-handed sounds really good. One-handed sword and board will sound good. Dual wield sounds good. And even playing a one-handed sword and board person, you can still DPS with it. Yes, you'll have a taunt, but if your tank understands why you're playing a DPS with a sword and board, then you can work together with him and say, hey, you know what? I'll grab attention for a little bit, so that way you can build up some stamina so they're not beating on you, so you can regenerate some of your other abilities, and I'll take the hits for a while by blocking those hits. And once you come off it, I'm going to go right back to doing damage. Though that is an option. It doesn't mean that is it the right option? I don't know. It's dependent on the person playing the character. It's not really up to me to decide. You can also play DPS with a dual wield. Now, like I said, a lot of these options are choices that you got to make, and are they good choices or are they bad choices is dependent on really just the opinions of the people you're playing with. Some people might say, hey, you know what, sword and board doesn't really work for DPS. And you can say, well, you know what, I want to try it out. I want to see if I can make it work. If you can make it work, all the better to you. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Just saying. And this comes down to the meta stuff as well. A lot of meta builders don't like, or meta players do not like to have people in their group that can't offer them the more potential. But it doesn't mean that you can't play that way. This game does have a thing to it that says play how you want. And playing how you want is being able to play a character that fits your needs and your likeness of what you want to play. You could be a leather armor person running around with sword and board and dual wield on the back bar if you wanted to. Instead of running dual sword and bow, you could run dual sword and board for that extra defense capability. And you don't even need to use puncture then. You could actually just use low slash, shield charge and power bash if you wanted to without using the defensive thing and puncture. And then you could use the ultimate if you wanted to on one bar. It's completely up to the character. And it's just like that. If you want to be a character that uses nothing but weapon abilities and none of your class abilities, except for maybe a couple of buffs or something, you can do that. And that's an option. And that's why Elder Scrolls is one of the cooler MMOs, in my opinion, out there, because it does offer you those kind of flexibilities with all the class types and all the choices. Because now your character is no longer just, a class that does a specific role, like in other MMOs. If you play a warrior in other MMOs, you are a warrior. Your character does one thing. They're either a tank or they're DPS. If you play a paladin, your character can be a tank, a healer, or a DPS. If you play this, your character's this and this. And there's not really a lot of flexibility in there. But this game has a ton of flexibility because we don't only get the option to choose our role, we also get the choice of armor types, weapon types, and class type, which offers us different playability. Classes play a lot in it. And if you throw in guild skills and everything else, and then alliance war skills, and then crafting, all this kind of, the benefits from crafting, we'll say. Not the crafting skills themselves, but those kind of things, like the certain passives and all that. You can make a character do a lot of different stuff. And your character's not just dedicated to playing by a certain structure. It's all up to you to decide. Now, beyond that, the next thing comes gear. Now, gear is a completely different playground because gear offers a lot of other benefits. It offers a lot of more, to make your character more defined. And it not only does it make it more defined, but it allows you to kind of add some other functionality to your character that they might not normally have, which is really good. Like you can apply another buff, or you can do things for your group, or you can do all kinds of stuff. But gear is one part of it. Your weapon choice is one part of it. Your armor choice to wear as your main armor type is one part of it. Like I said, your class, your race, all these skill types, all this stuff plays into a build. And all it is a combination of all of them put together in like a giant puzzle, and you're trying to fit the pieces together. Now, sometimes the pieces don't fit. Doesn't mean you throw a whole thing away, like a whole set, away. You might just need to change something about a skill, or you might need to change something about your attributes, or a glyph, or a trait. And glyphs and traits are part of your gear set because they are something that you put into the gear set, or you have crafted with the gear set, or it's something that you're looking for with that specific gear set that you want it to have, whether it be an enchantment with health, or enchantments, that are things that are glyphs you put into your gear, or it's a trait that your gear comes with or you craft it with. Now, traits can offer different benefits. Some things they can offer you might be more beneficial than, saying, taking more critical damage, like giving yourself the ability to get greater sprint speed and dodge rolling. Might be more beneficial for the build you're going for, because you want this character to be like somebody that's like a thief acrobat, let's say. And you want to be able to do those dodge rolls more often and at a lesser cost, so you're not burning through stamina doing dodge rolls. So you put on a bunch of dodge roll gear. It doesn't mean that your character is more or less ineffective. It just means that you won't be able to do as many, you might not be as effective at crit damage as you could be, and at critical hits. But it doesn't mean it's going to take all your critical hits away. You're going to have about a 60%, between a 60 and a 65, 75% chance crit, depending on which way you go. And so you can do that. The same thing goes with anything else. I mean, traits can do a lot of things. Let's go take a look just real quick. We'll run through kind of what traits, there is to offer, and use the wiki. Here's my advice too. Use the wiki. Always look at the wiki for advice on helping you create a build. Now, like I said, you have armor traits and you have weapon traits, and depending which ones you go for can offer you different things. Now, somebody asked in my guild the other day, is decisive a very good trait? And at first I thought, to myself, well, why would you really want to use this if you're using like heroic strike? And then it hit me. This with heroic strike would be great, because every time you use heroic strike, you gain a chance of gaining another ultimate with it. So, and you got to think, if you get a heroic strike, it's going to give you 2 ultimate right off the bat, plus it's going to give you that heroic strike, which is going to generate ultimate. And every time it generates ultimate, you're going to have a 17% chance of gaining another ultimate with it. So I was like, that'd be really good. And think about how fast you would generate ultimate then on top of it. And if you went with the kind of setup with, say, a reinforced shield instead of an infused shield, and went with one of these weapons on your bar, but not on the one you main block with as a sword and board tank, you could still go with this and generate a lot more ultimate on top of it, or have a chance to. I'd much rather have a chance to get that extra ultimate, just like what somebody explained to me about what the meta, with the Tavas and dodge roll. I don't see a problem with running Tavas and the evasion thing, but if you get that chance to where you can get more ultimate, why not take it? Just like if you can take that chance of generating more ultimate, why not take it? So it wouldn't be a bad idea to have one weapon on your sword and board build, because you're going to run sword and board on both bars. If you're running sword and board on one, have it be decisive, and then on the other one have it be defending. So you do get that option of where you could get some extra ultimate, and that's just one thing, one factor of a build. But a build can become more unique the more you look at it. Now, there's a lot of different other things you can do that you can make your character, either better at something or worse at something. It just depends on it. And like I said, looking at the wiki, you get all this information. Next up, we have the glyphs that I was talking about. And glyphs is another thing that can build on your character, because glyphs offer you different enchantments for your stuff. So you have armor glyphs that give you health, magic, stamina, or prismatic defense, which add all three at a lower value. These ones are going to give you the greatest value. This is going to give you the lowest value. But even these lower value ones, if you have enough of them to combine, will give you a lot of different benefits. Next up, you have... Oh, and just so you guys know, this is how the scaling works with the glyphs on your gear. So if you have it on your head, chest, legs, and shield, you're going to get 100% of the value of the glyph. But when you have it infused, it'll get a greater value. It goes up like 110% or something like that, or a certain percentage higher than that 100%. And then waist, feet, hands, and shoulders is 40% of the value of this. So whatever quality this is another thing. And always look at the quality. Remember, any glyph you put in your gear, whatever its quality, is what you're going to get the full value of. So if you make like an epic one, which is called a Rakuta glyph, and you put it in something, it's always going to be 882. No matter what CP level you might have, or what quality level you might have. Whether it be green quality gear, if you put a Rakuta in it, you're still going to get that 882. And even if you put a gold quality Kuta value one, a legendary one, in your gear, it's still going to give you the same value regardless of what quality the gear is. So the enchantment represents this quality, and then your gear represents a separate quality. Now your gear sets will give you a different value based on its quality. Next up, we have weapon glyphs, and weapon glyphs, there's a lot of different ones. Let's say you're playing a DK fire tank, but you want to use sword and board, but you do want to get some fire damage in there as well. You could put flame damage on your weapon to give you extra flame damage. A lot of people would say not to do that, to do something else. A lot of people say to put crushing, so that way you can apply that extra effect on the enemy for the players, giving them greater damage potential. But it doesn't really fit for you unless you're playing more of a DPS character. Would this become more of a requirement to get that extra damage potential in there? You know, I mean, I understand the tank, it's their job to help you do certain things, but not necessarily does a tank want to do that. Maybe they want to just apply more weapon damage for themselves. They want to apply more damage for themselves, and that is a possibility, 100% possibility to make a DPS tank in this game and make them good. So you can be a tank that does DPS and tanks at the same time. It just depends on how you choose to play your tank. Just like you can be a Magicka tank and use Magicka DPS and tank at the same time. There's a lot of different stuff. But there's a lot of different things here that offer a lot of different stuff. Now, one that I like to use, and I know a lot of people don't understand this one, is I like to use this one that says decreases health. Now, this is Daedric damage, and this will literally, anything, it doesn't matter what they have, even if they have a damage shield up, this will go right through it and do damage to them. This is unresistible damage. They cannot block it. There's nothing they can do to stop it. They will get hit by it if it triggers. Now, every weapon glyph has a chance of triggering. It's like a 60% chance or something like that. Or you know, by whatever, it has a certain amount of chance that when you swing your weapon, it'll activate it and it'll fire off. Now you can increase that effect with certain traits on your weapons. So, but lots of really cool ideas in here when you get into the meat of it and you start putting together more unique builds. The more you can come up with greater damage potential because of it. Now, you do have jewelry glyphs as well, and jewelry glyphs are kind of cool. There's some really good ones in there. There's these ones that add weapon damage and spell damage, some that add health recovery, stamina recovery, magic recovery, and then this one that reduces the cost of stuff, so that means it's not going to cost you as much stamina. So if you're trying to reduce the cost of stamina abilities, you could put this in there instead of getting stamina recovery, so you can get a greater reduced cost instead of needing that stamina recovery. Because the lesser the value, the less you need to recover. On top of that, you can get shielding, which reduces the cost of bash and reduces the cost of blocking by X amount. So no matter what, you're going to get a reduced block. You can get increased bashing, which increases your bash damage by a certain amount depending on the quality of the glyph. You can get a glyph of decreased physical harm, which adds physical resistance, one adds spell resistance, one that adds different resistances based on different things, like more flame or frost, you know, kind of resistances. And then you have these down here, which reduce the cooldown of potions and increase the duration of potion effects by X seconds. These are really good, especially if you're playing a Nightblade character and you want to use the potion thing to generate ultimate. You could put this on your jewelry to give you that ability to get that ultimate quicker, so that way you can fire off your ultimates a lot more efficiently or effectively. So it's a good option, just saying. But there's a lot of different things that you can do with a build to make it more your own. And it's understanding the build and the gear sets and understanding the class and the race and all that kind of combination that makes a build work. And that's pretty much how you can come up with your own build and create your own build, is by just sitting down, looking at what you want your character to do, and then going in and finding what works. Now, here's some suggestions. If you're going to farm gear sets for specific things, if it's not a world drop that you can buy from a guild trader or something like that, but it's a dungeon set or a trial set, run it on normal. Get the basic items from it. Get the jewelry, even in the basic, so you get the full benefit of the set combination, and then just collect what you need in the weapons and stuff. Then do it on a vet mode to get the jewelry in purple. And then that way you have the set the way you want it. And that's only if you're running for gear sets in dungeons and trials. If you're running for open world, the best way to do that is to go get the jewelry yourself by farming dolmens. Dolmens are easy. So and if you farm the dolmens in a certain rotation, you can get the jewelry pretty quick. And then you will get the sets you want pretty quick. Now when it comes to gear in the rest of the gear, run the public dungeons. Go to the public dungeons of that area, run it like crazy, farm those bosses. And this is another way you can also, if you haven't watched it, I have a gold making video where it explains farming the public dungeons is the best way to earn gold. You can earn gold and you can get the set you need at the same time. So that way, if there's something you're looking for that you're just not getting in a drop in a public dungeon, you can go buy it. And if you're wanting to make some decent money at set farming and stuff, go farm sets that people don't farm. Because there's a lot of people out there that are only farming specific sets because it makes them more gold. But if you're farming sets that don't, you know, there's not a lot of on the marketplace, and you're selling and you put those up, people will buy them because people want to use those sets because they offer something different. And now it's not gonna garner you the kind of gold you could get if you farm, like, say, Spriggans or something like that, but it can still garner you some gold. And there's a lot of us builders out there that are always looking for this stuff, and we're looking to buy it at a decent price. Usually, like green quality stuff or blue quality stuff, we're looking for about 200 to 500 in gold. So you could be making 200 to 500 like crazy. Now, the sets that people are getting a lot of, like Leckies, people don't buy a lot of Leckies unless they're going for the 2-piece combination or the 3-piece combination kind of thing. And usually it's just the 2-piece for that extra weapon damage kind of thing. They're not using it for the 5-piece, so they're looking for the weapons more. But even those who want to make a 2-piece combination to give them a generalization of what a monster set can do, which we'll get into here in a second, you can do that as well. So let's talk about monster sets as well, because monster sets are really cool. There's a lot of great monster sets, but it does require you to give up either another 5-piece set, so you don't have 2 5-piece sets, and giving up 2 5-piece sets can change your build a lot, but you can use 3-piece jewelry sets to make up the difference. And there's some really good ones in here. After I got to looking at some of them, there's a lot of really good ones in here. The ones that you can get in the normal PvE content is agility, endurance, and willpower. Now I'm going to tell PvPers a little hint. Put these sets, if you're not going to use them, put them on the trading post, please. Because there's a lot of these sets I would love to get a hold of. I'd love to get a hold of Grace of the Ancients, because this one would be really good for a Magicka person to use, especially if it gives them max Magicka here, and the jewelry has the Magicka as well. Now these sets here, for some reason, when it comes to willpower, endurance, and agility, they don't drop or always give you what their value is. Like agility doesn't always give you the extra stamina on the jewelry. It can give you stamina, magic, or health, which is really good too, because it offers you the benefit of getting some extra health on your character if you don't want to spend a lot of gold. You can run daily dungeons. If you guys know what the daily dungeon reward is, it's basically you queue for a normal dungeon, and there's like a daily version. When you run it on any of those you run, normal or VAT, when you run it, you're always going to get 1 purple jewelry from it. And you can have a chance of earning all these different ones from the daily dungeons. Now, these ones that are Cyrodiil, these ones, I believe, drop in boxes, and they drop at the dolmens. But I don't know how hard they are to get at the dolmens in there, because I haven't done any dolmens over there lately in a long, long time, since like back at launch. But I am looking into going and running dolmens over there, so I can try to get this set, because I think this set would be really cool to have on like a Magicka tank, because this way you get that extra Magicka here, you get that extra Magicka here, and you get that 4% increased max Magicka, which would be really good for a tank, or even for a caster person who's looking for that extra Magicka instead of spell damage like willpower gives you. Or what if you're looking for a jewelry set that just gives you spell damage and spell critical? This is another set you can go with, and it's still going to give you 3 things on here with a certain stat value. So this is another thing that you can go with. And there's a lot of different sets in here. Remember that. There's this one, the Deadly Strikes. Really great one if you want some extra health, but you can get it in stamina. You can get that extra critical in there as well. You can go with this one if you play a bow person, increasing the range of your bow abilities by 3 meters, giving you some more weapon critical, and you can hopefully get it in stamina. But my point is that you can use. Now, monster sets, like I said, are really cool. Some are really, really good, and some are really, like, weird. Like, it makes you not understand them. Now, Engine Guardian is one that a lot of tanks use, because it helps with greater resource management. So you're not having to sit there and fire off a lot of heavy attacks when you can use abilities to give you your resources back. And now this one it has a thing where it's every 0.5 seconds. For 6.5 seconds, you're going to get this much health, stamina, and Magicka back over the course of 6.5 seconds. It's a lot. And it can trigger every every 6.5 seconds. So every 6.5 seconds you can get this. If you can get that 10% trigger, the better off you are, because that means you're going to be able to fire off more stuff and keep those resources coming in. A lot of spellcasters, like AoE spellcasters, like to use Alumbras because it does do that flame damage and stuff like that. I like Infernal Guardian, especially on my DK right now. I've been using this, and it's pretty powerful because it has a, whenever you cast a damage shield, which think about a Guardian or a DK, you're using your Igneous Shield a lot to tank with. You fire that off, man, the more you fire it off, the more you're lobbing mortars at enemies, because this thing can happen once every 6 seconds. And I can guarantee you that 5,500 flame damage makes a huge difference when you're fighting a lot of enemies. Next up, you have all these other sets which do offer a lot of great benefits. I mean, Mighty Chudin's a really good set, especially if you're playing like a Nightblade, and you can't, you know, Nightblades don't get a lot of resistances. They have to use outside sources to get, or even a Sork doesn't get a lot of resources. But they do have bound armaments, which is great, and then the Nightblade has Blur if they want to use it. But to get Major Ward and Major Resolve 100% of the time without having to cast a buff and getting extra resistances on top of it, that's why I say this set I think would work really good with that. If you're going for like a poison damage DK, like a DK DPS person, there's I think it's this one, the Cellatrix. No, that's physical damage, but that'd still be a good one. This is another one really good as well, because when you deal direct melee damage, you have a 15% chance to call on a primal spirit that mauls the closest enemy. It's basically like you would have 2 Dawnbreakers at the same time, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. One would be more powerful than the other, that's for sure, but still you have that. And there's a lot of other things. You can get Slime Claw if you're DPS, or even if you want to play a DPS tank, this could give you Major Berserk for a certain amount of time. There's a lot of different things in here. And then there's some that are beneficial to certain classes, like Stone Fist is really good for a Sork. Anyone playing a Sork, Stam Sork, doesn't matter. Try this set out. I'm serious. It is amazing because you get that extra 1,500 shock damage for 1 second for 3 seconds to all enemies and within 4 meters, and then it finally closes a fist up that crushes the enemy for 8,000 physical damage. You get a 5% bonus to both shock and physical damage. This thing, you get that bonus. So it's a pretty powerful tool when you have it in the right hands, and that is in the right hands in a Sork. So yeah, there's a lot of different things though that you can do to make your build more unique. Different gear sets, different options and different things can make your build even more fantastical just based on what you choose to do. But some advice, make a build that's gonna work. Don't make a build that you think might work without testing it. That's why I always buy cheap sets and test it with cheap sets, because if I can, and it doesn't matter what type of, like what traits are on it, because I test with any trait. And then when I get it to where I want it, like if I find out the set's going to work with another set, then what I'll do is I will actually go farm, or I'll go buy the sets, the rest of the set I need. So if I need it in Defines, or I need it in Reinforced, or if I want it in Sturdy, or even that dodge rolling one, or I want to get it in more experience gain, I can do that, and I can get it with what I need. I even have a set for one of my characters that is a prosperous set, so I can earn more gold while I'm out playing in the world. And I use it just for gold farming. So think about when I run a public dungeon with that character. This character is a full-on DPS build. So they can run through the public dungeons, and every time they loot gold, they get like 50 to 100% more gold. Yeah, plus the other 100% gold they get from any chests and stuff they open. I'm getting a lot of gold really fast. So it's a really good combination if you want to make gold really fast. That's a really good kind of set to make. And I have them, they're called my adventure character. I use them strictly for farming gold and loot and treasures. In fact, in their champion points, I have enough points in here to get Treasure Hunter. So I can get that. They have Tumbling, they have Shadow Ward, they have Shade, some points in Shade and some of Befoul, but they mostly have like, I think it's like 25 here, 25 here, and then like between the two of these there's like 15 here and 10 here. So just so I can get get that Treasure Hunter to get that increased quality of items found in treasure chests. And from what I understand, I know this doesn't make sense, but apparently if you find a master chest always comes with a purple quality item. But if you have Treasure Hunter, there's a certain percentage chance you can get a gold item. So this also helps with farming that. So But unfortunately, I haven't gotten a gold item yet because I don't get a lot of master chests in public dungeons. But I do make a lot of gold, and I get a lot of the sets I need from doing this. So it's my way of just kind of going and chilling, farming for stuff, and doing that. And then if I need to go run dolmens, I run dolmens with that same build. And think about this, dolmens drop jewelry. It's not considered opening a chest, but you do get the jewelry from it, so you do get jewelry. On top of that, you get the gold from the chest, which is increased. And any enemies that might drop gold is increased, so you get that benefit as well. So there's a lot of different things you can do and with a build, and whatever you choose to do is your choice. It is not up to me or anyone else out in the game world to decide whether your build works or not. It is up to you to determine whether it works for you or not. And that's it on builds, guys. I mean, always just look at the combinations of what you're trying to get out of your character. And gear sets don't necessarily make your character any better or worse. They can give you different features and different functions based on different things. I mean, come on. I mean, look at the Tavas and evasion thing. It's not just for Warhorn, because you do get the dodge chance, and that dodge chance does come in handy because it does mitigate some damage. And Tavas, every time you dodge, you get 9 ultimate, which does give you a greater chance of using Warhorn more effectively. So there is that benefit to it, but it is not necessarily one that a lot of people would want to use when there's other resources out there that they could use to generate more ultimate, or generate ultimate a different way. And I keep bringing up that Tavas thing because it is important to understand that Tavas isn't a bad setup. It's just a choice and an option that somebody gets to go with. And it's basically somebody's opinion saying, hey, guess what? I'm going to use this set because it looks like it's the best, and this person says so. That's basically an opinion. It's a choice, and it's how we play these games. So whether we choose to use a build in one manner doesn't mean that we can't take options from it. Like say, hey, you know what? I like using that evasion because I do like getting that dodge chance, but I'm going to use Hide of the Werewolf instead, because it does guarantee if ever I take damage, I'm going to get 5 ultimate. And with that dodge there as well, you got to think, I get a 15% chance to dodge, and I get a guaranteed 5 ultimate kind of thing. And it's not a bad option, it's another choice. So, but that's it, guys. That's how a build is, that's how they work, that's how you can put one together yourself. It's just making a build work in the essence of, does it do what you want it to? Are you making a tank? Are you making a healer? Are you making a damage dealer? Are you making a hybrid tank? Are you making a hybrid healer or a hybrid damage dealer? Are you making a pure stamina tank or a pure magicka tank? Those are the things you need to look at when you put together your character. What do they do? What kind of benefits can I get from different gear sets? And if you guys want to hear a really cool benefit, just look at Twiceborn Star and Braha's Curse and then put it on a tank. And think about it. Because Twiceborn Star, you can use 2 Mundus Stones, so you could use one that increases your, say, healing effectiveness, or one that increases your one of your resistances while using this over here. Plus it's going to play off both stats, magicka and stamina, and then you're using Braha's Curse, which does the same thing with a chance to do an minor area of effect damage thing. So if you're tanking and you're right up front and you use your heroic strike or whatever, you get a chance of putting that Braha's Curse on them. That means you're going to do that damage over time of them while you're blocking the damage. So it's a way of getting some extra damage in there. And then on top of that, you can use 2 Mundus Stones from Twiceborn Star, or you even go with Palinals. That way you can get both magic and spell damage from the same weapon type. There's a lot, or from whatever type you have more into. There's a lot of different things you can do with a hybrid tank or a hybrid healer or a hybrid DPS that nobody else has thought of. So, but that's it for now, guys. I hope that you guys did enjoy this video. Like I said, I hope it taught you some general idea on how builds work and how you can come up with your own build and make it work for you. I know I didn't get into too much detail. I just kind of went through and explained certain things and it told you like what you could and couldn't do, or, well, basically what you could do, because there is no real thing that says you can't do something. It might not work and you might have to go get something else. And I also explained how you can go get gear sets and all that kind of stuff, which is great. I'm glad I got that in there for you guys. But other than that, that's it for now. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. If you want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe and get notified when my videos are posted to YouTube, which is great. And then on top of that, there's nothing else, because I'm out of here. I'm going to go get my kids and go hang out with them. So thanks for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Bye.